What's up, everybody? This is your boy Chainsaw. If you've been following me on social media, you know we have done some changes here. You might notice a little bit of a shift here in the studio. I've done a couple of things to kind of make the place a little more roomy, a little bit more homey, a little bit easier access, smoother flowing, and you know, honestly, you might not even notice the difference, but believe me, sitting here in the thinking chair, I am definitely noticing some huge differences. So super excited about that. I'm less limited in scope, and a lot of things should be running a little bit smoother and running a little bit faster. So super excited to see how that plays out. Listen, we're gonna jump right into this. I'm gonna make it as short and sweet as possible because I still got tons and tons to do to prepare for this weekend. More about that a little bit later. If you follow me on Twitter at Chainsaw CCC, of course, don't forget to like and smash the subscribe button and the bell icon on YouTube. chainsawccc.com/YouTube, or you know, there's tons of links all over the place. You'll be able to catch them. But I want to jump right into this. So this was a tweet that I'd seen. This was a tweet that I'd seen by Attorney General Eric Schmitt. Of course, he's running for Roy Blunt's Senate seat. Probably one of the biggest high-profile races in the country. You know, for the primaries outside of the Pennsylvania race, right? And this is still going to be a huge one, a huge determining factor here. But I came across this today, and it kind of goes back to a few things that we have previously covered. So bear with me here, folks, if we go over some information that you may already know. But this is a tweet that came out earlier today from the AG. Missouri can't afford billionaire heiress Bush Valentine, is referring to Trudy Bush Valentine, heiress to the Bush, Bush beer, or easy drinking Bush Light, right? While inflation is at an all-time high, Valentine chooses the Biden agenda over her own Missouri farmers. And we're going to get to Missouri farmers here in just a second. So Valentine's socialist agenda is wrong for farmers and wrong for Missouri. Hashtag Mo Senate. A death tax for family farms to be sold off to pay the IRS. You gotta be kidding me here. You gotta be kidding me here. Apparently Attorney General Eric Schmitt has no idea what a death tax is, which I find super strange. But let's take a look here. And I'm pulling this directly from Investopedia.com. So, you know, Google it yourself, right? What are death taxes? Death taxes are taxes imposed by the federal and some state governments on someone's estate upon their death. These taxes are levied on the beneficiary who received the property in the deceased will, or the estate which pays the tax before transferring the inherited property. Death taxes are also called death duties, estate taxes, or inheritance taxes, right? Oh my goodness. So grandma dies and she left me, a bag of granulated sugar, in a Bible, and I got to pay taxes on this stuff? Well, a death tax can be any tax imposed on property transfer after someone's death. The term death tax can with the inheritance tax, the person who inherits the asset pays the tax, okay? The estate tax charged by the federal government and some state governments is based on the value of property and assets at the time of the owner's death. Okay, so the bag of granulated sugar and the Bible, probably, it's a King James Bible, of course, so it may have a little more value depending on the crowd, I guess, but it's based on the property value at the time of the person's passing, okay? Well, as of August 2022, 12 states imposed a estate tax, a death tax, separate from the federal government. These states are Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, Washington, and the District of Columbia, and not the state of fucking Missouri. Okay, so we're talking about the federal government. There is no fucking death tax in Missouri. There is no estate tax in Missouri. It just doesn't fucking exist. So we're talking about the federal one. Okay, the federal one does not impose inheritance. The federal government does not impose an inheritance tax, but several states do. Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Nebraska, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. However, in all these states, property passing to a surviving spouse is exempt from inheritance taxes. Nebraska, Pennsylvania impose taxes on property passing to a child or grandchild in some instances. Okay. And I've actually, I believe even before this was a news channel, I may have talked about that or at least discussed it, you know, on social media before. Google it yourself. Most people end up not paying the death tax because it only applies to a few people. This is because the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act applied the estate tax to the basic exclusion amount, which in 2022 is $12.6 million. So basically what they're bitching about is people who have $12 million in real estate of some kind, $12 million worth of farm, okay? And it passes from one family member to the next upon their death, and they're like, oh my God, you got to pay taxes on that. Oh, Jesus Christ, you got to pay, you know, taxes on your almost fucking, you know, over $12 million worth of real estate. God forbid. But they're making it sound like, oh, it's just these farmers, these, you know, subsistence farmers, you know, like the kind that live, you know, in rural Missouri, rural Ozarks, right? For example, assume an individual leaves an estate valued at $12.8 million, accounted for inflation and non-exempt assets to the children, and has never left any gifts that exceeded the exclusion amount. The amount above the federal level, $12.8 million, $12.6 million. So of that 12.8, we're really only talking about, you know, the amount above the 12.06, $740,000 will be subject to the estate tax. Not the $12.06 million, but only the $740,000. So if you have $12.07 million worth of real estate, well, guess how much is going to get taxed? We are literally talking about a tax on $10,000 for someone who owns $12.07 million worth of real estate here. Get the fuck out of here, Eric Schmitt. According to the unified rate schedule, the taxable amount is subject to a 37% tax plus a base tax of $155,800. Therefore, the estate tax will have a death tax liability of 37% times $740,000 plus $155,800 at $429,600. So again, your $12.8 million, oh my God, you got to pay less than $500,000 in taxes. And again, so if a decedent's estate is valued at less than the applicable exemption amount for the year of death, the estate won't owe any federal estate taxes. Won't owe, will not owe. How to reduce or avoid death taxes. Most people will not need to worry about death taxes because not many have more than $12.06 million in assets. This number may drop after 2025 if Congress doesn't renew the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but the figure could still be $5 million or more than most, which is more than most people have. So if you happen to or have enough assets to trigger death taxes, there are some things you can do to reduce or avoid them. Create an irrevocable trust. Great for money laundering. Give your assets to family and friends. Again, money laundering. Enjoy your money. Blow that shit. Better than money laundering. Charitable donations. Again, money laundering. How do you avoid death taxes? Most people will not incur estate taxes, commonly called the death tax. But if you have 12.06 million or more in assets, you can avoid paying taxes by donating to charity, And so again, if you're fucking catching this shit on Twitter because you follow this piece of shit, don't worry, because it does not apply to you. If you do not have more than $5 million in assets, in real assets, this doesn't apply to you. It's never going to fucking apply to you. He's lying to you. He thinks you're a fucking idiot. But anyway, let's just jump right back into that. So we're talking about farmers, right? Oh, I didn't show the video there. It was basically just TBV and Biden there, which, again, most folks already know that I am not a huge TBV fan. We're going to get to that in a minute. So basically what he's saying is that if you're a farmer, you know, TBV and Biden are going to tax you to death, even though this doesn't apply to you now. And even if they do nothing to you know, continue Trump's tax cuts, this will not apply to you in the future. You, the person watching this video and the person who's following this lump of shit on Twitter, you will never have to worry about paying the estate tax ever in your life, unless you end up with $5 million in real estate for your farm. You know, wrong for farmers, right? Well, let's talk about farmers here for just a second. You know, it's funny to me that well, we'll jump into that. So I caught that earlier where he's ragging on farmers, and I thought to myself, boy, you know, he's really going nuts on Trudy Bush Valentine here. That seems odd to me. But then I seem to recall this article from The Intercept. Missouri Republican Senate candidates fundraise at Democratic contenders' estate. At their family-owned farm, Democrat Trudy Bush Valentine's brothers hosted donors for Republicans Eric Greitens and Eric Schmitt. This was from The Intercept back July 20th, 2022. Historic St. Louis farm, built by former President Ulysses S. Grant, was the site for major fundraisers for two frontrunners in Missouri's Republican Senate primary. Oh, this is the same race that she's running as the Democrat in the primaries, and now is the Democrat candidate in the same ass race. Oh, okay. Weird. The estate is jointly owned and operated by 5 members of the Anheuser-Busch family, including TBV, Democrat candidate for Senate in Missouri, and that's the same ass race. The fundraisers were hosted by 2 other co-owners, Bush Valentine's siblings. 2017, an heir to the Anheuser-Busch fortune, TBV, 4 other relatives purchased the farm from their family trust. So this is that money laundering thing they talked about. $51 million. In March, her brother Peter Bush, co-owner of the estate, hosted a high-dollar fundraiser for Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, whose wife accused him of physically abusing her and one of their children in an affidavit reported publicly. An event flyer advertised tickets starting at $1,000, an upper co-host rate of $10,000, and a special appearance from the Budweiser Clydesdale. Bush Valentine entered the race the following week. So again, we're talking about not you, average Republican voter, average Republican subsistence farmer. We are not talking about fucking you. You don't get to go to the fancy Clydesdale beer, Grant Farm. You don't get to be a co-host unless you can just drop almost $11,000 on a fucking ticket to go have lunch with these dirtbags. In May, Andy Bush, another brother and co-owner, held a high-dollar fundraiser for Missouri Republican Attorney General Eric Schmitt at the farm. The Schmitt campaign reportedly raised more than $100,000 from its 100 supporters at the event. According to filings with the Federal Election Commission, the campaign paid $11,000 to the farm in June for event food and beverages. Both Schmitt and Greitens are in the state's upcoming Republican Senate primary, which means they could both potentially face Bush Valentine. But yeah, it goes on from there. That's about all we're gonna end up with here. So yeah, so what was that he said here? Where did we leave that? Missouri can't afford billionaire heiress Bush Valentine. Clearly you can fucking afford it, bro. And all of her, her family can afford to bankroll the shit out of you. But don't take my word for it. We just reported on this last month when Lindsey Simmons had basically outed the group. What was that? Cornerstone 1791. That was the group that was behind the woke heat maps that were targeting schools. The incorporator is an attorney at Graves Garrett, the law firm in Kansas City that was bankrolled by the Legal Defense Fund for January 6 organizers. The address listed on their organizational papers is the same as Graves Garrett Law Firm in Kansas City. Way back in 2019, you may recall, a Democrat candidate for Attorney General Elad Gross reached out to Eric Schmitt then to request an investigation into this group who was fundraising illegally, of course, by not registering with the Attorney General's office. Cornerstone 1791, or as they like to call themselves, Liberty Alliance, claimed that they were in full compliance with the law. Now, this is likely because they knew, even way back 3 years ago, that Eric Schmitt is the law. And since these folks were and are soliciting dark money to support and promote stochastic terrorism and being bankrolled by a law office that is actually receiving money to protect actual terrorists, I mean, give me a fucking break. These are the same people who monetarily have supported Eric Greitens' campaign, Mike Parsons' campaign. Todd Graves, partner in the law firm, has himself listed on Parsons' donor list as a farmer. Get the fuck out of here, man. You can't make this shit up. And look, folks, I mean, I posted it on Twitter earlier as I was putting this piece together. Dark money going after dark money. Missouri, you clearly have a problem. I mean, what more else is there to say? Listen, let me know what you think. Leave me a message in the comments or hit me up on Twitter. I would love to know your thoughts on this. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. If you like this kind of content and want to see more independent news talk media from the foothills of the Ozarks, consider personally helping this channel grow by sending your boy Chainsaw a small $3 tip at patreon.com/chainsawccc or at chainsawccc.com/Patreon. This show is 100% viewer and me supported. I'd really appreciate you taking part in this journey with me.